Are you a busy mom juggling the responsibilities of motherhood and trying to stay fit? Look no further than Fit for Mom. The programs were specifically designed by moms for moms, providing pre- and postnatal health, wellness, and fitness solutions for every stage of motherhood. From strength training to cardio workouts, they've got you covered, and your first class is free. Visit fit4mom.com and select the Westfield location to get in touch with Christina today.
Did you imagine that it would take off when you have this many episodes already? Or was it something you were doing to just make some?
I think it's definitely one of those things that when it's right, it's just right and it's easy and it flows energetically. But
you like it?
Yeah, it's fun. I love getting to know people. And
What's your most interesting guest, the Shovlins?
Most interesting? You.
Oh my gosh. Player.
I'm doing this thing now where I'm not doing official intros. We're just gonna roll right into it because I like the fun banter in the beginning that we always have, and I never get to show it on the show. I'm always just like, welcome to another episode. Right. But then everyone misses like the fun getting to know you part of it.
Gotcha.
So anyway, welcome back to another episode of That Westfield Podcast. Today we are joined by Carol Anne Patterson, who is an amazing Reiki practitioner, healer, goddess of all things health and wellness. I don't even know what to call you because you're just so cool and interesting and fun. So let's just get into it. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do.
Where am I from? Well, originally Pennsylvania, but I've been in Cranford since 95 and in practice here in some way or another since then. Started my career as a physical therapist, and then about 15 years ago...
so I can see your beautiful face.
Oh, okay. 15 years ago, I had this wild, crazy experience where a miracle happened through my hands, which led me into the field of alternative healing. So I kind of, like you said, do kind of all things wellness, yoga therapy, Reiki, energy healing, mindfulness, meditation, a little bit of everything. I just meet people where they are.
Right.
You know, mind, body, spirit. However I can meet them where they are, I just ask, the source to use me.
Right.
Yeah.
So if people aren't super into this, right? If they think it's like, what the hell are you talking about? Right. So the best way we can explain this is like, we're all energy, right? Energy, everything is energy. And unless you've probably been through something in your life that required a lot of deep thought or, healing, you probably haven't gotten to the point of experiencing energy. So like I came to you because I was going through a lot of health issues and you helped me, emotional issues that you helped me work through. And I've felt physical changes in my body on your table, right? And so for people who aren't quite sure what that is, can you just explain what energy healing is a little bit more?
Yeah, so we are energetic beings. What any of us are is like a vibration of atoms vibrating at a frequency condensed into form, right? And everything, every thought, every emotion, every story, every past event exists as energy in our being. And the energies of fear, the energies of grief, those energies of frustration, et cetera, that so many of us feel as humans can block us and manifest themselves in physical form as dis-ease of mind or body.
Right.
I personally would not have believed in any of that. I would tell you, I'm science-brained. I started out as a physical therapist. I would not have believed any of it had I not witnessed a miracle. A man with facial paralysis, eye opened on my table, and it just sent me down that realm. And I have seen miracle after miracle. Not like every session is a miracle, but the work has completely blown away my rational mind a million times. Like there's so much that we just do not understand about this being that we are. And if we think that we do, we're foolish, right? And so it's a very relaxing technique too. I mean, if people come in, they just, maybe they're going through a stressful time. A lot of times they'll feel like lighter afterwards, or they'll feel relaxed, or they sleep better at night. But whether in a planned way or an unexpected way, a lot of times people will get relief from. So the craziest thing I ever saw is a woman that came in with a fresh black eye, like the kind that's like purple. And by the time she left, it was half its size.
Get out of here.
And it was the greenish yellow color already. I swear to God, I was like, whoa, it's so crazy.
You're like, I'm good.
So it blows me away. Well, no, it's not me. It's just, you surrender yourself just to sort of hold the space of belief and healing and be a channel for whatever flows through. Because that energy is always flowing to us and through us. And so it's not me doing it. It's just me being the space holder, holding that vibration so that the person's body can heal. So our bodies all know how to heal, right?
Exactly.
But generally we're so hung up in our own mind and our own fears and our own worries that we couldn't possibly get to the vibration where healing takes place.
Right. So that's great. I mean, I know personally on your table, like I was having like a lot of nervous system dysregulation, we'll just say, and I literally felt you helped me shift from like fight or flight to a very calm, peaceful environment. And I literally felt like I got almost like a fever, and then like it just like cooled down. It was so interesting. And and not just with you, I've experienced energy healing in other ways too. And if anyone says it's not real, it's craziness. And you just haven't experienced it. You haven't felt the gift that you have like within your own body, even just standing in the grass, right? Just like letting the energy of the earth do something to your body, whatever it does. I can't explain it. I'm not a physicist or
and
really great
part
with
of
it.
Is like, why do we need to explain it, right?
Ooh, I like that too.
Why do we need to explain it?
It's
if
there.
It works, right? And so even if you just come in to relax, we know we have different brainwave states. There's tons of research now supporting the practices of meditation and nervous system regulation, right? And so many times people will drop into this space of sleep, this theta, alpha or theta brainwave space, and our bodies know how to heal in that space.
And I love it.
Yeah, and so even if we just get there, every session is different. Sometimes it feels like just deep rest and relaxation. Sometimes there's a big release, which you've had experiences that. Sometimes people just start crying.
Oh, yeah.
Where maybe something that has been stuffed down at some point in their time is given permission to finally process so they can integrate and move on. Sometimes messages will come through and there'll be deep wisdom that comes through or exactly the answer that you're looking for. I mean, I never know. It's not me doing it. It's just me surrendering to it. But I do know that over the course of the last, what has been almost like 14 years now, it's just, sometimes I just drop to my knees and I've cried. I've literally cried when someone walked out and said, thank you so much, you know, God, for letting me be a part of that.
Right. And so this is something like people always wonder like, oh, is this like religious? Is it not religious? Like, is this like from the devil and this and that? And like, I think when you are on the journey of just like God and love and source and energy, like all of it, it's all in our minds like one thing, right? It's just we sometimes call it something different. Yes, we all can have like some different beliefs around it, but at the end of the day, it's like there's something bigger than all of us out there that's helping guide us or to love us, to teach us lessons and to show us stuff. So what kind of experience have you had with people? And like, and you're telling me about an experience you had the other day, like with God and Jesus, but like, is it like, how can you explain it to somebody who might be maybe always believed like one thing and maybe they're open-minded to understanding more?
Yeah, I mean, I know it really serves us to believe that there's a benevolent, abundant source of energy that is supporting us. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's what a God of your understanding. God, we've talked about this. God is a word that a lot of people are uncomfortable with. Whether you call it source, you call it the universe, you call it divine love or divine wisdom, the infinite spirit. I mean, there's so many words, but it does serve us to believe that there is an energy bigger than us that's supporting us and sustaining us. And I think that I have and we talked about raised Catholic, but not religious at all. And ended up on this whole spiritual journey, have advanced certificates in mind body medicine, have a lot of training in Eastern practices. Reiki, by the way, is totally neutral. It is just the life force energy, which, we could call the quantum field in physics, just this place of coming to oneness, understanding that vibrationally we're one with everything in the universe. And that's science, right? And then really coming to understand that we are so expansive as beings. We have the ability to heal ourselves, to create, co-creatorship with this universe, with the higher power, or whatever it is we believe. And as you deepen into these practices, whether it's meditation, mindfulness, Reiki, even sometimes yoga, prayer, you can sometimes touch that. Right. And so for me, the practice brought me into a deeper relationship with the God of my understanding, for sure. But the practice is just, it is a neutral practice. And I think it's complementary to whatever your practices are. For sure. For me, it deepens my faith. And as we talked about recently, had an experience with Jesus, unexpected, but my intention whenever I do energy healing with someone is just to be a channel for whatever's of the highest good. Yeah. To hold the space for whatever's of the highest good. Right. And it'll meet them where they are and their beliefs.
I love that. I love that. So you are also a certified yoga teacher as well. Right? So tell us a little bit about all the things that you do outside of Reiki.
I have quite a bit of training in yoga, although I don't really do much studio teaching. I do yoga therapy, so one-on-one yoga therapy. And that's not just to meet the physical body, although I am a PT, but to meet them because yoga is an energy practice as well. So moving energy, coming to the breath, being mindful, coming to learn and understand your body. That's another place where sometimes emotions will come up or something, and process something on the
know
on
nothing
the mat,
about that.
on the mat, right? So we work with people one-on-one and in small groups in that way. Love that work. I do the energy healing, and then I also teach mindfulness. Meditation and mindfulness practices. I work with small groups in mentorship, and some people one-on-one in mentorship. And what that looks like is they might come for some energy work, and then they'll want someone to call out their blind spots or be a support for them. We might just kind of ask questions. We often don't see our blind spots because we are governed predominantly by our subconscious mind, and a lot of what we do is on autopilot. So it's like, sometimes you need someone else to say, well, what about this perspective, or have you ever thought about it like that, or maybe consider journaling, because sometimes when we journal, like, things come out. So I work with people in those ways. I love to do trainings, Reiki trainings, meditation, mindfulness trainings, just helping people to live a better, more authentic, joyful, conscious life.
Right. Yeah. You have definitely been a great mentor of mine over the last couple of years, and you actually used to come to me all the time in the restaurant and be like, come lay on my table, and I was like, yeah, I know, yeah. And then I find
you're like,
you just saw all over my face.
Lady. You didn't even know who I was.
And
I was like, come to my table. I'm not even going to charge you. You're like, whatever, lady.
Come to
just
my
take your
table.
bone broth and go.
I know. Pretty much. Now, there was one or two times because I was so disconnected from my body. I was so like stressed and angry and like whatever I was going through at the time. And you just like saw it. You like saw through all the chaos, and you were just like, wow, you need like just a hug. Like you need a hug, like understanding. You need like just a place to like let this go. And I mean, now that I'm more aware of that inside of me, I walk around and I see it every day in other people, and I'm just like, holy moly, we're all so stressed out, and no one could take the time just to not even just do Reiki, like just to sit in the grass and like be with yourself and be in peace and calmness. So
absolutely, even just be seen, like, or hugged. And it's funny that you say that, because I did see you, by the way. I did.
I know you did.
I could see, and it's one of the things. It's like when you begin to see everybody as this beautiful light, and we see that everybody is in, whatever their conditioned patterns of survival are, right? You can see who people truly are, and their suffering. It's just apparent, right? And so I could see that for sure. And you're such a bright light, and I could see that you were overwhelmed, which is why I was this weirdo telling you to come in on me.
You got me in. You're like, yeah, drug dealer. You're like, the first one's on me, and I come back all the time now.
So, but to be fair, I did send a lot of people to your business.
You did.
A lot of people to you.
No,
so even though we hadn't met,
so cyclical.
I felt like we had a connection. But I will say this. So when I first was led into this work, it was like I had a dark night of the soul in 2006 after the death of a loved one, and where my whole world kind of came crashing down. I left the field, did a whole bunch of other things, sold jewelry, and that's where I really got into the deeper aspects of myself, or parts of my personality that I hadn't developed before. Because, when you're in business, like I'm in sales now, not healthcare, where I'm wearing the white coat and I'm the one in charge making the plans. It's like sales. You have to build relationships with people in a different way. And that really expanded my being. And I started working with a life coach, which was a business coach at the time, but really ended up to be a life coach.
Right.
Like, what are the things that keep you back from connection with people? When you start looking at those places in yourself, you're really going to start to see, the places where you're armoring up, et cetera.
Oh, yeah.
So when I eventually went back to the field of physical therapy, I was so different that my experiences with patients were different. And what I realized was that so many of them just needed to be heard. They needed to be seen. They needed to be loved. They needed a hug.
Yeah.
They were taking care of their sick parent, and no sibling is helping them, and they're completely overwhelmed. They don't get a break. And then what I started to see was there were predictable patterns of pain within people. Like I could almost identify, based on what was going on in their life, where they were going to tell me they had pain. Oh, it was really quite predictable.
So tell people an example of that, like COVID, right? It was like a lot of like leg pain.
So
stability, and
a lot of people they were coming in with like bilateral foot pain or bilateral shoulder pain. So the bilateral foot pain would be indicative of like uncertainty, fear, the unknown, which of course we all went through during that time. And both shoulders would be like grief, when we were going through that. And you could chalk it up and say, well, people are less, active, or they're sitting at a computer all day. And sure, there's a truth to that, right? Like, so the energetic will intersect with the physical and use the physical body to speak to us, because many of us don't have, like you've been knocked on your butt because you couldn't hear the energy saying, Amanda, it's time to slow down. Amanda, you're not aligned with this, right? And so boom, right, it hits you. But to your point, like I began to see that something was missing, that people just need to be seen, heard, loved, supported.
Right.
And there's so many ways that we can do that. And so that was the first thing that led me. The first thing that I did was go to become a yoga teacher, not because I wanted to teach in a studio, but because I wanted to meet these patients in a different way, in a mind-body way. And then it just led me down the rabbit hole. And it was when I started practicing. You go to yoga teacher training, it's like a life-changing experience.
Right.
You start meditating, you start practicing, right? You start practicing loving kindness. Like, people think of yoga as those postures, but it's actually an 8-limb practice where there are ways of being and connecting to your higher self and higher power. I don't even like the word higher self. Like, this is who we are. And then that's when things started happening to me. And so that miracle happened because I was different, right? The universe is always meeting us where we are. And so you're exactly right. Like, I saw you, and you probably did just need a hug or someone to say,
you need a day off.
I see you. I mean, you needed more than that, but it's very healing, to your point, to say to someone, I see you.
Right.
You know,
there's so much good stuff in here. What I definitely want to talk about, though, because I know for a fact people are struggling with this, they're having physical pain in their body, and they do not realize that it could be emotional in some sort of way. And again, something I've experienced, like, I had a lot of like liver issues, like liver pain. And of course, like, I already don't eat gluten. I already don't eat dairy. I don't do any of I don't drink alcohol. So it's like, why was I having this pain here? And, they say organs are associated with different emotions and this and that, or things could get trapped and all this stuff. And it's like, there's so much truth to it, especially once you see people start to heal from it, and you're just like, I thought that was a thing, but then you see it happen and you're like, oh, okay. Like, in me in particular, like, I did a lot of work there, and I don't have those pains anymore. And obviously diet change helps too, but or like back pain, right? So many people struggling with like just stress and back pain, or like, what are some other connections that you see that people might be able to like tap into this and recognize and go, oh, maybe I need to do some work there?
Well, gosh, I mean, anything. I just said, gosh.
Gosh, golly. It's a Pennsylvania coming out on you, girl.
No, I mean, listen, it can, any pain that lasts a long period of time is really kind of been hardwired into the brain. There's an association of that pain with something. Very often it's fear. Very often it's stress or a painful experience or grief or, something where then it gets hardwired in, and then it also feeds fear. So you'll have pain, and then you'll have fear about, oh my God, is this ever going to go away? Or how's this going to be? And then we just get into patterns. We have these pathways of pain that can be addressed when we meet the whole person. So a lot of times people would go and they're looking for a diagnosis and they're looking for answers. Or say, for example, you used back pain. So you go to a doctor for your back pain that's been going on forever. Maybe you're going through a stressful situation and they find a herniated disc.
Right.
Well, guess what? If we took 10 people off the street right now that didn't have back pain and we did an MRI, we'd find herniated discs on them. So there's it's almost like I'm like, no, don't get the test, right? Because then we hang our hat on that. And we're like, oh, that's why it is. And then we start seeking the solution to that, whether it's treatment or surgery, right? And when we look at people more holistically, we have the ability to shift things that you just wouldn't even know that you could shift. And it doesn't mean that you don't sometimes have to address the physical. That's one of the reasons I like yoga, right? Because everything's stored in our tissues. And so sometimes we get contracted. If you're stressed, you end up like this, right? So then you go into yoga and you start stretching out and you start breathing and you open, all of a sudden you're crying or something like that. Like, this is the way that things shift. But for sure, paying attention to the stories that we're telling in our mind, and the state of our nervous system is very much related to the stories that we tell in our mind, right? So it's like, this is the worst thing ever that ever could have happened to me. Or, oh, wow, maybe this is redirection and this is a great opportunity. They're two very different stories, right? And the way our bodies react to those are
I mean, that's been something I think I've always told myself my entire life, right? When I lost my vision as a kid and I was like, okay, this is bad, but like, how do I make it something good? I could have very easily made it something negative my entire life. And some people do. And same thing with MS. And like, Fettle and Fair existed because I have MS, right? It was like, I have this disease, whatever, and I have to change my diet and I want to help other people and give them access to food. And then, but at the end of the day, it was more about like just being hopeful, like that. Having the ability to change my diet gave me hope that this disease wasn't going to like completely destroy my life. And even though it was like one small thing, diet, right, and I do all these other things, it was just more like of an emotional, like, this thing doesn't control me, this thing doesn't define who I am. And I think a lot of people with chronic illness definitely do that. They try not to, but again, it happens to me once in a while. I think a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, you were here and I'm like, hey, it's been 17 years that I've had MS, and I went through like a moment of like, oh my God, that's a long time. That means something bad might happen, but it doesn't mean that. Like, it doesn't have to mean that. But these stories that we tell ourselves, or these things that we believe from sometimes doctors who don't want to give us hope, it's like there's so much hope to be had no matter what it is you're going through, whether it's a divorce, a chronic illness, like these things could all affect us, but we have the ability to like not be controlled and to be free from it just with how our mind works. It's
absolutely
fascinating.
Yeah. And I love this idea that like Joe Dispenza talks about, like the disease exists in a past version of you. Like there's a past version of you. I'm not saying necessarily with MS, but let's say the back pain or something like that. And as we heal,
I would say MS too.
Right,
yeah, I would say it. Listen,
illness. So I don't speak for you. But no, these things exist in past versions of us, right? And so when you heal that grief, or when you move through and you accept, or you come to love maybe a deeper part of yourself that you were ashamed of before, things shift, right? And we really can, we can heal. I don't even like to use the word heal so much anymore. We can step outside of what we thought was true. We can step outside of our conditioning. We can step outside of our fear and be different and live a different life.
And this is, I mean, Joe Dispenza, Gabor Mate, these guys are doing tons of work around emotions and disease. And, it was actually, it's funny because I remember standing in Federal and Fair one day. And again, this wasn't just a regular restaurant for people who are watching this now. It was a place where you don't eat gluten-free because you want to, right? People had health issues, and I would always ask them, like, why are you getting bone broth? And I heard 10,000 plus stories in 6 years. And I start to notice patterns, like you said, of like people with similar personalities and emotions had similar diseases. And I was like, that's really interesting. And I literally went home and Googled one day, autoimmune disease and emotions, and Gabor Mate popped up, and then Joe Dispenza popped up. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, I'm not crazy like this. And then we start talking, and I was like, okay, I'm really not crazy if you're noticing this too. And then there's so much work, so many papers out about this. And so I just find this really fascinating. So if anyone's struggling out there, like if you feel like you don't really know what to do, you've been going to a doctor for a long time and all your tests are normal and you don't feel good, like there could be an energetic component as to why you're not feeling great, or emotional. And to be able to release these things, with somebody who just is, again, can hold space for you and guide you through it is a beautiful thing. So
absolutely. I landed in it smack dab in the middle of trauma work. Unbeknownst to me, right? And this is going back, because now everywhere you look, there's talk of childhood trauma, there's talk of our childhood patterns and the subconscious mind and the nervous system, et cetera. And we now know that most of us have had trauma at some point. And that doesn't mean some like egregious act of physical trauma. It could be, for all of us at some point or another, even with the most loving parents, had times where maybe our emotions were not validated, or we weren't seen, or our needs weren't met. I mean, because we were raised by humans, right? And so we all have these layers of sort of trauma that have created certain pathways of behavior or protection within us. And I had no idea of that. And I landed in this trauma work. I'm getting client after client just finding me. Because in the beginning, when I opened my practice, I had no paying clients. I just had this man on whom the miracle happened. I signed a 7-year lease on an office, and people just started finding me. Because when you're aligned, people find you, right? True. And they just started finding me, and I'm getting all these people who were like physically and emotionally abused. And I'm like, why can I relate to this? I wasn't, whatever. And then I came to learn that we all have these pockets of unprocessed emotions, or places where we weren't seen, or places where we weren't allowed to feel, or somebody said, no, don't cry, you're fine. No, you're fine, right? Or we were trying to be brave or strong. And it took me like way, way deep into that work with people and also within myself. And now it's mainstream.
Right.
Now you see it on TV shows, like everyone's talking about their inner child or what their parents were like, right? And it's a beautiful thing because we're all healing collectively, right? But when, like you're talking about recognizing patterns in people, for me at first it was people with pain that was emotional. And then I landed in this trauma space. I'm like, who am I to be doing this? But that's just where the energy was moving. In people and in me. Like I'm like doing the work right alongside of them. That's cool. Which is really cool.
That's the best part about working with healers, is like, or even being a healer yourself, is like you're just always learning and healing and growing, and using the word healing loosely here, of course. But I don't know. I've experienced miracles in myself, and I've seen other people too. So I know it's real. And I hope that other people can be, open to experiencing new things. So tell everyone where they can find you, where your offices are, your Instagram, website, all that good stuff.
So I have offices in Cranford and Chatham, downtown Cranford and downtown Chatham. CarolAnnePatterson.com. That's Carol Anne with an E and Patterson with 2 T's. And Instagram is Sacredly Human, because we are all sacred, miraculous beings and all very, very human. And I think that the key is to touch base with both of them and make peace with both of them. I do one-on-one sessions, mentorship, Reiki trainings. That's actually one of my favorite things to do, because even if you never do the hands-on healing aspect of the practice, the Reiki system is a system of living without worry, without anger, being in gratitude, kindness and compassionate to yourself, and then this like being true to your own way. So it's teaching people how to live in accordance with those 5 precepts, as well as to be able to use the energy healing practices on themselves or other people. And I do have some trainings coming up.
Cool. We will definitely talk about that. We'll link everything. So guys, if you're interested, even like you were my life coach for a while, like that's like something we did one-on-one together too. So it was, there's so many cool things that you can help people with. So if you're interested, guys, get in touch with her. And this was a very enlightening and beautiful conversation. So thank you. Hopefully we don't scare off too many business owners here. Like the business owners are the ones who need to reach out to you now, because I know for a fact that everyone's struggling with the stress, and
it's very stressful.
It's being true to yourself while owning your business is a very hard thing to do sometimes. And I got super disconnected, and you helped me reconnect to that, which was very beautiful. So thank you for everything you've done for me.
Welcome.
For sure.
I think being an entrepreneur is probably the hardest journey that there is.
Oh yeah.
Parenting might be up there. That's pretty hard. But
you think it's harder than parenting?
Yes, because I'm going to tell you something. Entrepreneurship took me to the depths of my shadows, and you cannot move beyond it unless you go through it. Where in relationships, you can skirt your way around it. But entrepreneurship, it's like, well, if you want to get from here to there, you need to go through that.
Right.
And places that I even had thought that I healed, as I started to go deeper and be seen more, it was like, no, like you shrink into that survival mode, right? Like you really have to be willing to step beyond fear again and again and again, and not be afraid of failure. So to all the business owners that are out there, like I think that entrepreneurship is definitely one of the hardest, most challenging journeys.
We might have to do a part 2 for the entrepreneurs out there and dive deep into some more stuff. So thank you so much. You're the best, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.